Hey everyone, welcome back to my Georgia garden. The garden is not all about flowers here in May. I still have some planting to do and some maintenance to take care of, so that's what we're going to do here today. I recently received some plant mail from Creekside Nursery in Dallas, North Carolina. It was a pre-order that I did back over the winter, and so I'm going to plant 4 of the shrubs I got in this area of my slope garden today. And before I do that, I just want to share this new annual perennial border with you. It has just come to life and I'm so proud of it. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like right now because there's so much color going on between my double play doozies that are now coming into bloom. Look at these flowers and how vibrant they are. So pretty. I love this plant so much. And the dahlia that I've had in the garden for several years, this has been wonderful. I used to have a triangle of them in this spot, but the other 2 died. So this is the only one I have left. It's so beautiful. I'm going to enjoy it as long as it lasts. I love this dark black foliage and it gets a bright neon pink flower during the summertime. I think that's going to look really pretty next to these bitens that I planted this spring, dotted in with the Nepeta and my Supertunias, of course. This is that new variety, Cool Jazz. It's a nice calming color, that light pink, lavender, beautiful. And of course the Mini Vista White, still looking great, tight and compact. Such a great border plant. I recently uploaded a video showing the 5 Supertunias that I have in my garden this year, so if you're interested in watching that, I will link it in the description. I'm going to be planting 3 dwarf butterfly bushes today. These are part of the Butterfly Candy series, and these are Lil Grape. So they have dark purple flowers on them. They get about 2 to 3 feet tall and wide, and I love this series of butterfly bushes. I've had the pink one, Lil Raspberry, in my garden for several years, and I absolutely love it. It's a standout. It has tons of flowers that are really close together, so it's very colorful throughout the season. I picked this dark purple color because I thought it would look really cool next to my Russian sage, which is that light purple bluish color. And I have one of the El Nino Desert Orchid Chitalpas, which has a similar color to my double play doozy spireas right here. So I thought that would be a really interesting combination to have those pinks and purples. And so we're just going to give it a shot and see how it turns out. I'm also going to plant a Sugar Shack Buttonbush. This is actually the newest variety from Proven Winners, Sugar Shack 2.0. This is going to be petite and only in that 4-foot range. That's pretty small for a buttonbush. So I'm really excited about this. The reason I'm planting it today is because it loves wet conditions. We have water that drains down from the fence here and also water that comes down off the slope. So this area tends to stay more wet. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this in the ground to hopefully add more roots to this area and help prevent erosion. Currently, I'm not able to dig a trench edge here along the Bermuda grass because it will cause so much erosion. We've had a muddy mess here before. Hopefully this area will gain more roots over time and we'll have less risk for erosion here. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll meet you back here in a little bit. I did a little bit of planting this weekend, and one of the shrubs that I added to my garden was this Vinho Verde Weigela from Proven Winners. I saw this in the garden center last week and it really stood out to me. The leaves in person are so vibrant. This black foliage against the bright green is so beautiful and it adds contrast to the garden. You can see it from a distance. I think this adds so much interest and I'm so excited to add this to my garden. This is going to be my first Weigela I have grown here in my Georgia garden, zone 8A. So I'm really excited about this. I had messaged Proven Winners over the weekend prior to planting to be sure that I was putting this in the right spot. And they suggested full sun for this plant, even in the southeast. So I'm really excited about this, interested to see how this does, and I will definitely give you guys an update later this summer. Here's a different angle with the sun on it, and you can really see how much these colors pop. So I'm really excited about this one. While I was out here planting it, I noticed the first blooms on my Chitalpa. I'm so excited. I planted this last spring. You may recognize this from Proven Winners, or if you watch Laura or Janie out west, they both have this plant in their garden, and I'm trying it here in the southeast, and it is so beautiful. This is called the El Nino Desert Orchid Chitalpa. When I see these in Janie or Laura's garden out west, they are huge. So I'm really excited to see how big these will get here in the southeast with our red clay and humidity. So stay tuned to see how much this grows in year 2. I planted this last spring in a 1-quart pot. So it was maybe 6 inches tall. And this is what it looks like this spring, 1 year later. So it looks beautiful. These are the first blooms I'm getting on this. I'm so excited. The first flower actually came out on Mother's Day, which was such a nice surprise. I have seen this plant at the J.C. Roston Arboretum in Raleigh, North Carolina, and it is huge. And they told my husband that they had only had it in the ground for a few years. So I'm really interested to see how it does here. What was really interesting to me is that when I was planting the Weigela, I had to remove a hibiscus first, and I was wondering why the hibiscus was struggling. When I pulled it out, there was a huge root running straight through the plant. At first, I thought it was part of the hibiscus, but then when I removed the plant, I realized it was actually a root from the Chitalpa. The Chitalpa had roots spreading all the way down the slope. It was shallow rooted and the roots were almost on top of the soil. This is probably due to our red clay, and this soil has not really been amended over time. So I'm pretty sure this area would benefit from a layer of compost to help with that. So here's the bird feeder setup. We have this path that goes up to the pole system, and this is all from Wild Birds Unlimited. And our smart squirrel is going up my weeping styrex here and launching himself off onto the bird feeder. He typically does this every morning, and he will launch himself, fall into the ground, and then try again. And so he does this several times until he lands on top of the baffle right here. And then he will stretch himself out to get onto this cylinder feeder here. Let's see if I can show you. He loves to stretch his legs out and reach this block feeder here. So this is what he primarily feeds on. In the beginning, I didn't mind him taking a few seeds here or there, but now he's starting to knock the whole block off onto the ground. So between that and then also getting onto this tube feeder here and potentially gnawing on it and damaging it, I'm just going to go ahead and try something different to hopefully deter him. So normally this baffle would be enough to keep any squirrels, chipmunks, or other animals off of your bird feeders. But any small tree in close proximity can be an avenue for the squirrels to jump and land on top. So I'm going to go ahead and try a different seed. This is the new block that I picked up from Wild Birds Unlimited. It's still a no mess blend, which we prefer so we don't get a bunch of seeds germinating underneath it. But this is the hot version of the seed that we were getting. This blend has a nice mix of sunflower, peanuts, safflower, suet, and mealworms. And the hot pepper is supposed to deter other animals. So I'm going to go ahead and try this today, and hopefully this will help deter the squirrels from the feeder, or I should say just my smart squirrel from the feeder. The previous block that I was using did have fruit in it, so it is a little bit different. But I'm going to go ahead and just try this today. Hopefully the birds like it as well, and we'll see what happens. All right, so I've added the new hot seed. The cylinder is really easy to install. There's a hook underneath here, so I just pop this off and then place the cylinder on, and it's all done. So we'll see how the birds and the squirrel do with this one. All right, so now that we've taken care of the squirrel, I want to show you my new trellis for my clematis. I have a purple clematis here that I got on clearance earlier this spring. This is from Proven Winners. I love these flowers. They're so bright and vibrant. This clematis is on the smaller side. It's only supposed to get about 8 feet tall. And my idea was to have this clematis grow up this pillar here. And initially I got this on clearance at a local garden center, and I've just been using these stakes that came with it. But now it is time to go ahead and put a permanent trellis in place. So I went ahead and ended up ordering one from Vego Garden. This is my first time ordering from Vego Garden, and I'm excited to see how this trellis turns out. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed and see if I can start putting it together. Okay, so here's my new trellis from Vego Garden. Really excited about this. It's about 8 feet tall, and that's perfect for this clematis because this clematis only gets to be about 8 feet tall. So I'm really excited about this. I will have to try to get it in the ground a little bit deeper, but otherwise I'm thrilled with this. It's really easy to set up. What is going to look very different in my video today are my self-watering containers. These were so beautiful with my Calibrachoa, Dichondra Falls, and some Nemesia. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you probably saw this combination. I ended up having to remove all of them. The Nemesia was severely infested with mealybugs, and I did actually have some mealybugs transfer to my Camellia over here, so I can actually show you what they look like. Let's see if I can find the branch here. Okay, so these are mealybugs. They're soft-bodied insects that are covered in a white, waxy coating that can look like cotton. This will cluster on the stems and suck sap from the plant. So I don't want to leave this here. I do think it came over from the container that was infested, that you can see that they're in close proximity. I'm going to check over the plant thoroughly, but so far I think it's isolated to just this one area of my Camellia. I'm thankful for that, and that should make it really easy to treat. I'm going to go ahead and trim this plant back. It does need a pruning anyways, just to keep it off of the house. And that will include removing any of the stems that I see that waxy coating on. Hopefully it ends up just being an isolated occurrence, and then I can just remove these. Since this is a permanent piece of my garden and something that I don't want severely damaged by insects, I can go ahead and spray some neem oil on this when I'm done pruning, and hopefully that will take care of this. I'll just keep an eye on it over the next couple of weeks. I ended up finding 4 pests in my garden in one day. One day. And all 4 of these are ones that I had never really dealt with before, and the common denominator through all of them was my containers. So let me give you a rundown of the 4 pests that I just found in my garden. I'll start with the mealybugs. I just showed you what the mealybugs looked like on my Camellia shrub, but they looked a lot worse on my Nemesia. Nemesia is an annual that typically thrives during the spring and the fall here in the south during periods of cooler temperatures. They tend to decline as the heat starts to pick up during the summertime. So that's one reason why I think my Nemesia plants were targeted by these insects. I think they had already been through their peak season and they were now on the decline as the heat has started to ramp up going into summer. So I made a quick decision to go ahead and remove all of the Nemesia plants from my garden. I had them in several different containers here on the back porch, and I just decided that it was a new plant that I was trying out, and clearly it just wasn't for my garden, and that's okay with me. They were not permanent plants in my garden. They were annuals that I was trying out for the first time, and not all plants work out. So that being said, that was not the only insect that I found here yesterday. I also found thrips. I have not seen thrips before, so I did have to do a little bit of research to figure out what was going on with my Supertunias. These are small insects that hide inside flowers and feed on plant tissue. They leave behind a silvery, streaking, and dark speckling that you can see on the petals. And the Supertunias have those tubular flowers that are a perfect hiding space for these bugs. I think I can deal with the thrips pretty easily on my Supertunias. Since they're hiding in those flowers, I can just pinch those flowers off, the affected ones, and then the Supertunia should continue to bloom and bloom. Third pest I found in my garden yesterday was whiteflies. I've not really paid attention to whiteflies before, but these are pretty easy to spot. You can go by and shake your plant a little bit and they just fly around everywhere. They will leave behind a sticky residue as they feed on your plants. So I saw a ton of whiteflies flying around my Supertunias that are planted in the ground in my breakfast garden. So my solution there is just to use the neem oil spray in the evening after all the pollinators have gone to bed, and I noticed that they're not feeding on this particular plant anymore. And I will just make a note of the day that I sprayed, and the bottle says to come back every 7 days, and I may have to do multiple treatments just to make sure that they are under control. The 4th pest that I found in my garden yesterday was aphids, and there were multiple kinds of aphids. Aphids are not new to my garden or probably anyone else's. We've all had aphids, and oftentimes they're not an issue. Once the beneficials find them, they will eliminate them completely. In this case, I had a pincushion flower that was in a container with a Nemesia that had looked diseased. When I saw it, it was completely infested with aphids. All the stems were completely covered. I did read that the aphids are common on this plant during spring, so I wasn't overly concerned, but with the combination of 4 insects in one day, I kind of just thought, you know, maybe this is not the plant for me, not the plant for my garden, and maybe this is just going to cause more problems for me. And so some of these newer plants that I decided to try out in my containers this year are just not working for me. And sometimes that happens. And I think it's important to talk about that too, and not just the successes in the garden. So all in all, with the discovery of these 4 insects, many of my annual plants in my containers were removed. Containers can naturally be a more stressful environment for plants. They can dry out, the lighting conditions may not be right, and there's multiple reasons why your container plants may be more prone to disease than your plants in the ground. This included all of my Nemesia, 1 pincushion flower, and sadly my calibrachoas. I love calibrachoas, but this is actually not the first time that I've had an insect problem on my calibrachoas. There were actually 2 different insects on the calibrachoas, the yellow one in this pot, and while it still looked beautiful and it was covered in blooms, it was going to be declining shortly. So I decided to remove all the plants that could be potentially a problem or a reoccurring host for these insects. Then I replanted a few plants that do not attract these insects, like salvias and gomphrena, and so I think those will be much better for this space. And then I sprayed a little bit of neem oil in the evening just to make sure that these insects are not going to transfer to the more permanent plants in my garden. I already removed the annuals from the other side of my porch and replaced them with a Rockin blue suede shoes salvia from Proven Winners. This is one of my favorite salvias. Salvias are great plants. They're generally resistant to insects, but they are a favorite of pollinators and hummingbirds. So this is going to be a great one for this spot. The Rockin blue suede shoes does like to have moist soil as well. I have grown this plant in containers before and it gets huge. So that's why I only put 1 plant in this pot. It's going to fill out this whole thing and the hummingbirds are just going to be all over this plant this summer. Really excited about that. I actually purchased 2 of these from Creekside Nursery in Dallas, North Carolina. So I'm kind of excited that I can try these out together in both of my containers. I was going to put these in the landscape, but my plans changed. So now I'm just going to put these in my 2 pots. I am going to come back with some soap, clean all of this up, and then it will look great. All right, that's all I have for today. If you like this video, please let me know in the comments. And if you haven't seen one of my recent garden tour videos, I will link them up here. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.